Hello, this is Rachel from the Nerdy Homeschooler, and I am here to give you a weekly homeschool planning routine video. So you're going to join me in planning for my next homeschool routine. I have a very simple, straight to the point planning style, so I don't think this will be a super long video, but you can join me and kind of see how I do it. Okay, so here we are. This is the Homeschool Lesson Planning Minimalist Notebook. This is my third one of these, my third year using this planner, so I guess you could say it's getting kind of serious. This is from School Nest and available on Amazon. I can link to it down below, and I've gotten the Minimalist Notebook every year, but I've gotten a different color cover each year because some of the great joys in life are having different colors of covers for your new planner. That's always fun. So each week starts with a weekly overview page, and it has a little schedule right here with where you can write what's going on days of the week. So that's usually my starting point. And my routine is that usually on a Saturday or a Sunday, I will just sit down to kind of set up my planner for the next school week while the previous one is fresh in my mind, but before the new school week has begun. So I'll write down anything that we have to do, such as on Saturday, we have a doctor's appointment this week. We also have Awana. And on Monday, there's actually a public holiday. And I'm not yet sure if we will do school on Monday or not, because my husband has to work. So I might just do school with the kids, even though most kids are gonna be out of school. But if we're just gonna be at home, we'll do school. If my parents wanna do something fun as a family, maybe we'll go out with them. But if we're just gonna be at home anyways, we'll probably do school. Fun to be homeschooled, right? Then on the weekly overview, I just kind of jot down any more big picture things that I wanna remember we're focusing on this week. So for example, I know that in history, in our ancient history program, we're on our week of Korea and Japan. And then something that I have to do each week is go and look at our art lesson, because this is the one that might need some preparation. So this is from Ancient World Art. We're going to be studying the art of Jomon, Japan, these rope textured pots. And our art project is pretty simple. We have a texture art project pressing different materials into clay or Play-Doh, and I have plenty of Play-Doh and even clay on hand. And then we're just kind of instructed to take photographs of it because we're keeping records of all of our art projects this year. And there's also a watercolor Jomon pot that they can paint. So all I'm gonna have to do is print out those onto some thicker paper. So Korea, Japan, I need to print a few copies of our Jomon pot. The art lesson is always the one that tends to need a little bit of prep because I might need cardboard or some different materials. But this week it's a pretty simple one. And we're reading a book that involves a dragon. So I was a dragon, Chinese dragon is pretty complicated to draw. So I was actually thinking of printing a dragon coloring page so that we could add that to our notebooks. Or maybe I could ask my sister if she wants to draw me a coloring page of a Chinese dragon just for the fun of it. We'll see. We'll see if I can find a good one. But that was one idea I had for our history this week. We do agricultural science 2 times a week during our morning time. That's from Gentle and Classical. So I already have that card out because we're on the second week of a unit, but I just sometimes jot down the topic of the unit so I can remember we're on a unit about harvesting and tractors, cultivators, tools for harvesting. And I'm just reading the readings that are scheduled for that. We just do that 2 times a week during morning time. We are also still working through our Madagascar issue of On Mission, but we only have 2 more weeks left of this. So I need to decide what country we're doing next. I'm thinking we might do Canada. That might be fun and a very different part of the world, traveling to a whole different part of the world. So I'll just write down a couple of big picture things I want to remember for the week. Our science experiment this week, I'd already looked at, and it's nothing complicated, nothing I need to get supplies for. So that's what I'll do for science, history, some of our morning time stuff, anything I want to make sure to remember to do. But most of our schoolwork is stuff that we're doing every day. You know, we're just kind of rolling to the next lesson, rolling to the next chapter of the book or whatever. So I don't have a whole lot of planning to do, and I don't go through and write down, oh, we're going to do lesson 22. I don't write any of that down ahead of time. I just already know that that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the next reading. We're going to do the next thing. Just go do the next thing. But I do go, and sometimes I try to write down things I want to remember to focus on, skills or things that I know maybe I've seen a need for more consistency and more work on right now. So for my second grade, I was noting I wanted to be more consistent with requiring narration after he reads a book, because, you know, life gets busy and sometimes he finishes the chapter and I'm like, okay, you know, next thing. But I want to make sure that I'm taking the time to ask him to tell me in his own words what happened in that chapter. And also want to be making sure that he's doing a good amount of copy work every day. For my kindergarten guy, he is working on subtraction. That is the current focus in math, and that is what he needs to work on. He gets subtraction, but he has to count it every time. And so I like the strategies for doing subtraction strategically and quickly. Those have not clicked yet. So I'm hoping to work on strategies. So we usually read at least one math storybook a week. So I'll try to choose a subtraction one this week. And he'll watch number blocks, most likely, every week. But I can try to choose some subtraction-focused episodes of number blocks, because I do think number blocks is great. Another skill that he's working on is playing games. The turn-taking, following the rules, like playing board games. So this is just little things that I'm putting on so I can keep them in mind. And then as I see these happening throughout the week, I'll put little check marks being like, okay, yeah, I played a game with him today. I played, you know, Chutes and Ladders or whatever it was. I played Taco versus Burrito, these little games. Then for my 1-year-old, I will also jot down some things I want to remember to do with him. You know, like, okay, he's been loving water play lately. Okay, get out the bucket, get out some measuring cups and stuff from the kitchen and do water play. Practice throwing balls with him, throwing balls into a bucket. You know, make sure to be reading him some stories, doing his song time with little hand motions. Just little things that I want to be remembering in the midst of the busyness of life with many kids. And so it's a pretty simple, straightforward week that lies ahead. Then I go over to our weekly plan, and I'm not going to be filling this all out in this video because I do reverse planning. I record what we did every day after we do it. I don't need to write it all down ahead of time because for the most part, we're doing basically the same thing every day. But one thing that is strangely satisfying with this version of the minimalist planner is you get to go and highlight or circle your month and your dates and your week of school. Down here at the bottom, they have what week are you on. I only use this for school weeks, so if we have a break week, I skip a week. We are on week 11 of our school year. I think never before this have I ever kept track of what week we are on in the school year. But this is kind of fun. I can see why that's very appealing to do. Then I just set this up by writing in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I will go across and divide this into sections. I write our morning time, subjects in this box. I write math and LA subjects for my oldest in this box. I do his Spanish subjects here. He's getting multiple boxes because he has more schoolwork in second grade than his younger brothers. History, geography goes here. Then his science goes here. Meanwhile, my kindergartner gets all of his work, pretty much can fit into this one box. And then I have been keeping the bottom row for my toddler just so I can kind of remember, hey, have I gotten out his dot markers this week? Have I gotten out this little activity I have for him, this sticker book or something, just to keep in mind, or just kind of keep a little visual of what I've been doing with them lately. And I can show you a little bit of what this looks like when it's filled out. I do like to use my colorful pens when I can find them. Sometimes they disappear a little bit, but I go through every single day. At the end of the day, I go, okay, yep, what did we read for the Bible? What lesson were we doing in math? What were we doing? And a lot of times, as you can see, it's the same thing every day. We're reading through Sapo y Sepo right now, a big anthology of it. And we're just reading a little bit every day, but noting it down, I can see very clearly that we've been consistent. With some things, I am writing down where we're at. So in our Sunlight Science, okay, week 8, day 1. So for things that make it clear what the lesson is, then yeah, I do write down the lesson. But for things like Explode the Code, etc., I just write that we did it because we're just doing the next page. It doesn't really matter what the page number is, it's not a specific lesson kind of thing. And you can see that, okay, sometimes I'm writing things down for my littlest one that, okay, I took him out biking today, went to the playground, we did painting with him today. He's starting to get into being able to use art materials without eating them. So that's great. I'll write down little topics or what project that we did for our history and for our science. So that is how it looks like filled out at the end of the week. And yeah, that's my very simple planning routine. Of course, some weeks have a little more planning than others. If I have, something going on that we're doing with friends, if we have a more complicated art project, this was a pretty simple one. Also, sometimes I do have additional extra books that I just happen to already own related to a topic. So when I do have those, then I will jot down those extra books. These topics, I don't really have anything extra to go into. Also, if it's a topic that would be great to learn about through video, I might jot down to, hey, look up a video, which, harvesting would be a fun topic to search for a video on. Watch some harvesters in action. I have boys who love tractors and have spent a lot of time driving tractors. So that would be fun to get a harvesting video to look up. So I just kind of jot down the ideas that I have for the week here, and then I'll check them off as they come along. So any videos or any extra resources I want to pull in, I'll bring those here, especially things that I tend to just forget or don't tend to be as good at, like playing board games. I'm not a super big fan of board games myself, but I do think it's a very good skill for kids to learn. So I'll write it down to make sure I do it. All right, that is my planning video, just showing my simple planning routine. It probably takes a lot more time to talk through it than to just do it. But this is how it goes. And by the end of our school weeks, we have full weeks showing everything that we've been working on throughout the week. All right, we will see you next time. Bye. I should probably mention that I don't do anything complicated like schedule out ahead of time that we're going to do 3 lessons of this workbook this week, or 2 lessons of this program this week, and 4 lessons of this program this week. I tend to much more have a style of we just do the next thing in our resources that we're using every day. We just do a little bit a day. Some resources that we're using that have longer lessons, actually, depending on the age and needs of my kids, I just might break up those lessons and we'll just do the amount that makes sense for us to do in a day, playing it by ear. We just kind of do that next thing. So we might spend a couple days working on one lesson. So that's one of my keys to making it more simple, is that I'm not planning how much we're going to get done. We're going to do 3 lessons of grammar this week. I just know we are going to work on grammar every day, and we're going to do the amount that makes sense for my kid.